Next, from the state capitol, GOP lawmakers unveil their proposed Income Tax Referendum Act, which will let voters opine on the permanency of the state income tax increase. This runs about 15 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is State Representative Dennis Reboletti from the 45th District. I'm an Assistant Republican leader. My district is in northern DuPage County from Addison. And today, at some point, hopefully by the end of business today, I will be filing a bill that is called the Income Tax Referendum Act, which will allow the people of this great state to opine about the permanency or the temporariness of the state income tax. And this year, the people will be asked to weigh in on a lot of issues. And so the question will read, on January 13th, 2011, the individual tax rate was temporarily increased to 5%. This rate is scheduled to decrease to 3.75% and on January 1st, 2015. Shall the individual income tax rate be permanently increased to 5%, allowing the respondent to answer yes or no? I think that this speaks for itself. We have had a lot of debate here in the General Assembly over the last 4 years about this. We have had members of the General Assembly weigh in on it and have talked about their positions. Now, I think it's important that we allow the people of this great state to also tell us what their positions are. And they will be talking about a lot of different things. So I want them to have the chance to speak, and I think this gives them a voice, and it will help to give this state some direction coming next year. I will turn it over now to Senator Matt Murphy.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate your leadership on this issue. I've heard from numerous people in my district that they were told this tax was going to be temporary, and now the majority is going to renege on that promise and just ram through a bill that makes it permanent. And they want to be heard. They want their input. And in an environment where the Democrats seem to want to ask the people of this state every other question under the sun before they act, on this central question, they are not interested in the input of the people who live here and will have to pay this tax. I think Representative Reboletti's proposal is a good one, and I hope that the Democrats will give this a hearing, because as they've said several times, why do you need to be afraid of putting a question before the people? So hopefully they will follow their own advice here and get the people's input on this tax increase before going any further, because the people know what a job killer this is. The Chicago Federal Reserve just pointed out that tax increase cost Illinois jobs, but the people in this state intuitively already know that, because they know how much harder it is to get work or get a better job if they have one, since the Democrats passed this job-killing 67% income tax. So hopefully the Democrats will allow Representative Reboletti's bill to go forward and give the people their say. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Ron Sandak. I represent the 81st District. And picking up from where my colleagues just mentioned, as a reminder, I think there are at least 4 public questions that will be on the upcoming ballot in November. 2, hopefully, are citizens' initiatives. But as a reminder, there's Marcy's Law, which is a victims advocate law question, a voting rights question, and then there's the 2 citizens' initiatives, a term limits initiative and fair map initiative. And now, as others know, there's another question that the Speaker may put before voters as well. So why not ask, as Senator Murphy just asked, the citizens the central question, the seminal question, that temporary income tax that was sold as temporary, that was sold as let us get our house in order, let the economy improve, let's pay down bills, and then we'll stabilize the state's financial condition, and then it will go away. Well, now we're hearing that it won't. So since the folks that gave us that tax aren't willing to live up to their word, let's put it to the citizens. I think since we have a crowded ballot, let's put the most important question on that crowded ballot, and let's see what the people have to say. Thank you for your time and attention.
Are there any questions?
At least 2 of you mentioned something that was kind of rattling around in my mind. you bring up the Democrats and bring up the other questions that they want on there and the way they've done business. How much of this is about a serious question? What do you, the people, think about this? And how much of this is about just tweaking the Democrats or making them look bad?
Well, I don't think it's anything about tweaking. The people in my district have overwhelmingly come out against the permanency of the income tax hike. They were promised one thing, and yesterday the Democrats met with the governor for 3 or 4 hours to discuss the complete opposite. They think that their voice isn't being heard by all of the General Assembly, and we're here to give them that individual voice so that they can go out and say, here's where we are. And I'm confident that they will come back and say, you guys are spending too much and you need to curtail it.
Well, you can make it a bedsheet ballot, because I want to get rid of the state police, and I want to get rid of half the universities, and I want to cut all your guys' pay by 10 grand apiece. That's how I want it, we the people. I mean, where is this going to end?
Well, this is an advisory referendum, as the Speaker has one. We're able to do that if we can pass both chambers by simple majorities. The people can, as people have already are going to try to put term limits and the fair map provision on there. And so hopefully those initiatives will be on there, but there are remedies for them, and this is one opportunity for our residents to be able to speak.
You talked to Democrats about this?
I have not. No.
Well, well, it's non-binding, but I mean, what are your ideas for what the budget's going to look like if, say, this comes back? No, we want 3.75. That's what we want. What's the budget going to look like that you pass this spring and then that you modify in the fall and winter?
I think it's pretty simple, and Representative Sullivan will talk about the budgetary portion.
As you all know, we passed a House resolution where it passed out unanimously to talk about what our revenue expectations are should the tax increase go away, $34.5 billion. Everybody voted for that. We had unanimous consent, and we moved forward. Subsequent to that, there was a speech by the governor where he came to the General Assembly and said, hey, I want to do things differently from what you guys have already started. And that obviously is the budget that he has proposed, along with the making the temporary tax permanent. From there, we no longer had an equal partner, an equal seat at the table. You saw that they put out what we talk about as our obligations we must pay for right off the top. And those numbers, as we all know and have found out, have been cooked. And so right off the bat, they're not playing fairly in this whole game. One of the areas was group health, where they came and said, well, we owe $1.9 billion in group health and pensions and all the other off-the-top numbers. What that did was it drove dramatic, draconian cuts on paper. When they passed the bills that they did last week in regard to the budget, they no longer had the $1.9 billion. They had $1.4 billion. So how did they come up with $500 million in found money? In some of the discussions we had. And so when you talk about what will the budget look like, well, let's have that discussion. But let's be equal partners at the discussion with the other side. And so far, they have not played fairly. They've cut us out of the process, and they're on one track. And so if they want to come off that track and join us with responsible budgeting and do the will of the people, we'll sit down and have that discussion when they want to include us as partners and equal partners.
Dave, I think, I think it's important to reiterate that the money is there if the tax rolls down as the Democrats promised, to fully fund our budget and not eviscerate core services. In fact, you can hold them flat. So if the Democrats want to talk about keeping their promise, but every single thing we have seen from them this spring, from the unified front of the Senate President and the Speaker of the House and the Governor coming out of the much delayed budget address by the Governor, is that they want to raise these taxes, and they're going to do it. We're going through a little theater right now, but in the end, they'll come around and they'll do what the Democrats are going to do, which is raise people's taxes in the state again. But make no mistake, they don't need to extend that tax to fund core services. We're spending record high amounts of revenue. We can continue to take care of the priorities of this state and give people the 1 week payback that the Democrats took 4 years ago.
You know, Matt, for the sake of discussion, if you get this on the ballot in November, but the Democrats extend the tax increase, how would those two jive together? What impact would the November referendum have on the actual tax increase?
Well, it would be a crystal clear statement of the intent of the people. And, you know, what comes with that from electoral results, I guess we would have to see. But there would be no question whatsoever. People question polls time and again, but there's no question the outcome of an election. If they vote to do this and extend it now, and the people say, we didn't want you to do that with Representative Reboletti's bill in the fall, it's a pretty big repudiation of the policy of the people who run this place.
Well, in 2011, the legislature raised the tax, and some people don't like that. And you voted for gay marriage as a legislature, and some people don't like that. And the school board last night voted that kids are going to be in school on Lincoln's birthday. I'll bet some people don't like that. But at some point, you say, hey, we elected these people as a representative democracy. They run things, so I don't have to. So where does one begin? We need a say in things, and it's a representative democracy. You guys run it. Begin.
I think this speaks to one particular issue. That is that we all here have been cut out of the process. We're going to ask the people to be citizen soldiers and join us in the fight. And that they think their voice isn't being heard by the majority, because we don't think our voice is being heard. So they have the opportunity to step up and cast the ballot, either support the measure or they're opposed to the measure. That's where we're at this right now, Dave. And so issues at local things, I know people can step up and do those same things. We're trying to entrust the people of the state that they know what's best. We're trying to already do that. We fought for 10 and a half hours about the budget on the floor. We made our points. It fell on deaf ears.
Citizen soldiers fight? It almost sounds like a military metaphor, or a militia.
I would think that the people need to step up and take back their government, and we're hoping that they will join us on this, hopefully this journey in the next couple of days, and hopefully we will get a full hearing.
I'd like to ask, Republicans voted in lockstep against the Speaker's minimum wage referendum question last week, including Representative Sandak. Why do you trust the voters on the question of taxes but not minimum wages, if that's how you're framing this?
Oh, no, we're not saying we don't trust anyone on it. This issue.
So why is their voice appropriate on taxes but not minimum wage?
It's not that it's appropriate. It's, let's frame it in the timing sequence that it should be brought. This issue was an issue that's percolated and it's been around since 2011. It was the seminal issue upon which we're fighting the good fight. It was supposed to be temporary. That was a promise, a pledge that is not being adhered to. The people should opine on that. With respect to minimum wage, let's be clear on this. We're the third, fourth highest in the country. I'm not saying it's not important that we get people's opinions, but if we're going to prioritize things and we have a whole host of issues, a litany of issues that the folks in charge want to put to the people, how about we put the most important issue to them too while we're at it?
Given the supermajorities the Democrats have, isn't this event here just theater because it's not going to happen?
Well, I don't know. This is an invitation to those supermajorities to actually engage with the people that they represent too on what is the most significant issue facing Illinois government in a number of years. So it doesn't have to be, but you're right. It'll be decided by Democrats whether this is on the ballot or not. We're putting forth the idea. It's up to them to work with us and give the people their say on it.
You might get those 15 or so Democrats with you, the ones that the Speaker and the Governor haven't swayed.
You never know. You never know. And if we don't ask, we won't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about
The Illinois Channel's coverage of the state legislature is underwritten by the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association.